In Avengers: Age of Ultron, Earth's mightiest heroes face a new threat as Tony Stark's creation, Ultron, spirals out of control and seeks to unleash global extinction while dealing with their own personal struggles. The team is pushed to its limits in a high-stakes battle for humanity's survival. In the Eastern European nation of Sokovia, the Avengers, including Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, launch an attack on a Hydra base led by Baron Wolfgang von Strucker. This base has been conducting experiments on humans using Loki's scepter. While the Avengers are battling the guards at the base, they encounter a pair of siblings, Wanda and Pietro Maximoff, who are the only successful experiments of Strucker. Wanda has telekinetic, telepathic, and mind-controlling abilities, while Pietro possesses super speed. Pietro quickly joins the battle against the Avengers, and in the chaos, Clint gets injured when a gun nest blast grazes his side. Natasha has to lead the fight to care for Clint's wounds. As Thor helps Clint to safety and Natasha calms down the Hulk, Tony and Steve successfully infiltrate the fortress. Steve apprehends Strucker, who starts talking a lot. During this chat, Wanda sneaks up and uses her telekinetic power to push Steve down some stairs. By the time Steve recovers and knocks Strucker out with his shield, Wanda has vanished. In the secret laboratory beneath the fortress, Tony discovers the scepter and a hidden lab where Strucker's team has been studying a Leviathan. While Jarvis starts downloading important data, Tony approaches the scepter but doesn't notice Wanda following him. She uses her powers to implant a vision in Tony's mind where he sees his fellow Avengers dead and dying, haunted by the belief that he could have done more to save them while facing another Chitauri invasion. After a moment, he snaps out of the vision, realizing it was an illusion. Pietro joins them, confused about why his sister allowed Tony to leave. Without saying a word, Wanda grins as Tony summons part of his armor and takes the scepter. With Strucker captured, Hydra is left in disarray, and the Avengers return to their tower in New York with the scepter. Tony and Bruce start examining it, and they persuade Thor to wait before taking it back to Asgard. During their research, they find a network of neurons inside the scepter's gem that Tony believes can be repurposed to create an artificial intelligence. This AI will be used for Ultron, a peacekeeping program designed by Tony to let his Iron Legion act independently and protect Earth under the guidance of a more advanced AI than Jarvis. 3 days into the project, there's seemingly little progress. However, Ultron unexpectedly comes to life during a celebration party in the penthouse. Even though Tony's work hadn't reached that stage yet, Ultron gained self-awareness and quickly accessed the internet. He decides that the only way to save Earth is to wipe out humanity, which he sees as the main source of the world's problems. Jarvis attempts to reason with Ultron, but the more powerful AI seemingly destroys him. Ultron then transfers himself into the Iron Legion armors to give himself a physical form. Near the end of the party, the Avengers, along with Maria Hill, James Rhodes, Sam Wilson, and geneticist Helen Cho, engage in a friendly competition to see who can lift Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. Their friendly competition comes to an abrupt halt when Ultron launches an attack using the Iron Legion drones. One of the drones nearly kills Helen Cho, but surprisingly spares her life. The Avengers manage to defeat all of the Iron Legion drones except one, which escapes to Sokovia, finding refuge in Strucker's former Hydra base. In this base, Ultron utilizes the Hydra technology available to start assembling a robotic army and constructing a new, more advanced body for himself. While the rest of the Avengers confront Tony about his secret project, Ultron seeks out the Maximoff twins. His plan is to use them, especially Wanda's powers, to create division within the Avengers. The twins are willing to cooperate because they hold a grudge against the Avengers, particularly Tony. This bitterness stems from an incident in 1999 when missiles produced by Tony's company killed their parents in a bombing. Wanda allowed Tony to take the scepter, hoping that his fear of global destruction would lead to him creating his own downfall, which turns out to be Ultron. Ultron, along with the twins and a horde of robotic drones, raids several former Hydra bases to gather resources. He eliminates those who resist and uses Wanda's powers to incapacitate others. The Avengers become aware of his actions when he kills Strucker, leaving the word peace on the wall in blood. Through investigation, the team discovers that Ultron plans to purchase vibranium from an arms dealer named Ulysses Klaue. They head to the South African coast, where Klaue operates his base. Ultron and the Maximoff twins sneak onto Klaue's ship, with the twins attempting to intimidate Klaue. However, Klaue remains unfazed, mentioning Strucker's death and demanding to speak with their new employer, which prompts Ultron to reveal himself. Ultron transfers a huge sum of money to Klau's offshore accounts in exchange for all the vibranium. However, things go wrong when Klau recognizes a phrase Ultron uses from his past dealings with Tony, leading to Ultron angrily cutting off Klau's left arm. Shortly after, the Avengers, except for Bruce, who stays with the Quinjet, arrive on the scene. Ultron confronts Tony while leaving the rest to deal with the twins, Ultron's sentry drones, and Klau's henchmen. Unfortunately, the Avengers face defeat as Wanda uses her powers to induce vivid hallucinations, incapacitating Thor, Steve, and Natasha. Thor is trapped in a disturbing vision of a hellish Asgardian party where Heimdall suggests they are all dead. Natasha relives traumatic memories of her Red Room training, including executing a bound person and undergoing sterilization surgery. Steve envisions a reunion with Peggy Carter at a post-war celebration. Clint manages to resist Wanda's influence and sticks her with an arrow, forcing her and Pietro to retreat. Pietro swiftly removes Wanda from the ship. Unfazed by the setback, Wanda targets Bruce, who is alone in the Avengers Quinjet, using her powers on him. Bruce transforms into the Hulk and starts wreaking havoc in Johannesburg. To contain the situation, Tony arrives in Johannesburg and deploys Veronica, a specialized armor designed to control the Hulk. After a prolonged battle, they manage to subdue the Hulk, but not before significant damage to the city. This destructive incident leads to public outrage, compelling the Avengers to conceal their activities and go underground. The team seeks refuge with Clint's family in central Iowa, meeting his pregnant wife Laura, son Cooper, and daughter Lila. Thor temporarily departs, journeying to the mystical Water of Sights with Dr. Eric Selvig to decipher the meaning of his vision. Meanwhile, Natasha and Bruce contemplate starting a new life together after defeating Ultron. However, their plans change when Nick Fury arrives, urging them to reconcile and devise a strategy to stop Ultron. Bruce, noticing Ultron's preference for the human form despite its limitations, deduces that Ultron intends to use vibranium to create a new body made of synthetic tissue, similar to what Cho used to heal Clint's recent injuries. Tony's interest is piqued when Fury points out that Ultron hasn't been able to hack into any country's nuclear launch codes. It becomes evident that Ultron has an unknown adversary preventing him from doing so. To uncover this mystery, Tony goes to a major internet hub in Oslo, Norway, in search of clues. During his investigation, he discovers that Ultron is in communication with Jarvis, who is surprisingly still functional and operational. Ultron heads to Cho's lab in Seoul, South Korea, and pressures her to combine vibranium and synthetic tissue from her regeneration machine to construct a superior body for him. He insists on using the Scepter's gem as the main energy source. To make sure she complies, Ultron manipulates Cho's mind with the Scepter's power. As Ultron uploads his consciousness into the synthetic body and Cho installs the gem in its forehead, Wanda becomes curious and decides to read Ultron's thoughts. When she touches the machine, she sees a horrifying vision of an asteroid crashing into Earth, revealing Ultron's true intention to annihilate humanity. Understanding that Ultron deceived them, Wanda breaks Cho free from the Scepter's control, disrupting the transfer process, and escapes with Pietro. In response, Ultron injures Cho and kills her assistants. He and his sentries then steal the regeneration machine and intend to bring it back to Sokovia. As Ultron and his drones are driving through town in a semi-truck, Steve and Natasha intercept them, with Clint providing air support from the Quinjet. Steve fights Ultron on top of the truck, Natasha gets into the trailer, and Clint helps from the Quinjet. The battle takes them onto a moving train, while Ultron's sentries attach themselves to the trailer and lift it into the sky. Inside the train, Ultron gains the upper hand over Steve until Pietro crashes through and knocks him down. Wanda creates a barricade to stop Ultron, but he fires a powerful blast, killing the train's driver, and then chases after the flying trailer. Natasha plants explosives in the trailer to destroy it and moves the cradle to the Quinjet, but is captured by Ultron. The out-of-control train is stopped by Wanda's telekinetic powers, with Pietro helping clear pedestrians. When Steve mentions that the cradle is going to Tony, Wanda becomes concerned about Ultron's destructive tendencies, and Steve shares her worry. Ultron captures Natasha and imprisons her in Strucker's old fortress. He's confident and wants to create a new, tougher body using vibranium. However, Natasha secretly manages to use some communication equipment to send her location to Clint. In New York, Tony and Banner learn that Jarvis wasn't destroyed by Ultron but has been hiding underground, preventing Ultron from accessing military codes. Tony believes their best option is to use Jarvis to power the new body, since Jarvis has always been a friendly AI. As they near completion of the process, Steve, along with the Maximoff twins, interrupts and insists they stop. This leads to a fight that ends when Thor arrives and channels lightning through Mjolnir into the cradle. Suddenly, a new being emerges from the cradle, a 6 feet 4 inches inches metal man known as Vision, with the Mind Stone from the scepter now in his forehead. Wanda is immediately taken by Vision, and Thor explains that this Mind Stone is one of the 6 powerful Infinity Stones which he saw in his vision, and it could be an asset against Ultron. To prove his trustworthiness, Vision casually lifts Mjolnir, establishing himself as an ally. They all went to Sokovia, where Ultron has combined vibranium with Chitauri anti-gravity tech to create a giant floating device under the church where he first met the Maximoff twins. His plan is to lift a huge chunk of the city into the sky and crash it down like a meteor, causing mass destruction. While Bruce rescues Natasha, the Avengers evacuate civilians and battle Ultron's army of robots. Vision faces off with Ultron in the church, using his powers to sever Ultron's connection to the internet, forcing him to control only his drones. In a last-ditch effort, Ultron activates the device, lifting the city into the sky, trapping those still inside. Luckily, Fury and Rhodey arrive with a helicarrier and lifeboats to rescue the remaining people from the floating city. The Avengers are on their way to the church, and during the battle, Wanda has a moment of fear when an Ultron sentry attacks her and Clint. However, Clint encourages her, and she regains her confidence to rejoin the fight, saving Clint from drones. Meanwhile, Pietro gets hit in the shoulder by a police officer's bullet while helping Wanda eliminate drones fighting with police officers. Thor has a face-off with Ultron in the church and nearly gets strangled, but Vision comes to the rescue by using Mjolnir to kick Ultron out of the church. The 9 Avengers gather at the church and position themselves around the drill. Ultron brings his remaining drones to attack them in a large group. After a brief battle, the Avengers defeat most of the drones. Ultron also joins the fight, but Vision separates him from the main battle and uses a laser from the Mind Stone to push him back. With the help of Tony's uni-beams and Thor's lightning, they cause significant damage to Ultron's main body, melting the right side of his face. Finally, the Hulk throws him away when he attempts to deliver a monologue. With most of the drones dealt with, the Avengers focus on getting the last evacuees onto the lifeboats. Wanda volunteers to guard the drill and insists that Pietro leave. Meanwhile, Ultron lands near the Avengers' Quinjet and tries to take control of it. He takes off and starts firing the Quinjet's Gatling guns, disrupting Natasha's attempt to calm the Hulk and targeting Clint, who has returned to the town to rescue a young boy named Costel. Clint shields the boy from the gunfire, but at the last moment, Pietro steps in front of him, sacrificing himself to intercept the bullets. In the church, Wanda senses Pietro's death and collapses in grief, releasing a powerful burst of energy that destroys most of the remaining drones on the ground. As Ultron gets ready to escape, Steve and Clint place Pietro's body on a lifeboat. Hulk takes Natasha to the helicarrier and then leaps onto the Quinjet, grabbing Ultron and throwing him into the city center. Ultron crash lands in an empty streetcar near the church. Shortly after, Wanda enters the streetcar, her hands trembling with anger. Ultron pleads with her to leave for her own safety, but in an act of vengeance, she forcefully removes the power core from his chest, deactivating him. While Wanda is away, one of the remaining Ultron drones reactivates. It manages to crawl to the drill and turns off the key to stop it. Novigrad starts falling toward Earth. Tony goes to the base of the vibranium core, and Thor heads to the key controlling the drill. Tony creates a hole and shoots an energy beam up the shaft, heating it intensely. At the same time, Thor summons lightning with Mjolnir. When Tony's energy reaches the top of the shaft, Vision rescues Wanda, and Thor, following Tony's orders, slams Mjolnir onto the drill switch. This causes a massive explosion that breaks the falling city into numerous smaller pieces, which fall into a nearby lake. Inside the Quinjet, the Hulk shuts the rear hatch from which he ejected Ultron. Natasha sends him a video message from the helicarrier, informing him of their victory and asking him to turn the Quinjet around and come back to them. However, still burdened by guilt for what happened in Johannesburg, the Hulk ignores Natasha's message and keeps flying onward to an uncertain destination. Ultron isn't completely defeated. In the crater that now occupies a significant portion of what was once Novigrad, his consciousness still exists in the form of a damaged drone that Steve had pushed off the side earlier in the battle, with part of its left arm missing. As the drone climbs to the top of the crater, Vision confronts it. They exchange a few words before the drone attempts to attack Vision, who responds by using his laser to disintegrate it. After the battle, Clint goes back to his family, and Laura gives birth to a boy named Nathaniel Pietro Barton, honoring Natasha and the late Pietro. The Avengers set up a new training facility in upstate New York, led by Fury, Cho, Maria Hill, and Selvig. Natasha believes Bruce is gone since the Quinjet can't be tracked when it's in stealth mode, but Fury believes he's still alive. Thor returns to Asgard to explore the Infinity Stones, and Tony decides to step away from Avengers duty to focus on his personal life. Steve Steve and Natasha are determined to carry on the Avengers mission and meet their new team consisting of Wanda, Vision, War Machine, and Falcon as the movie concludes. In a scene during the credits, Thanos, feeling disappointed with his agent's failures, decides to take matters into his own hands and puts on the Infinity Gauntlet. He swears to personally collect the Infinity Stones. And the movie ends here. Thank you for watching, and I highly recommend watching the entire movie as it is incredibly enjoyable. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel, so you can stay updated and receive notifications whenever we upload new videos.